Unmuted himself.
Okay.
That's it. That was the sound. Okay. Cool.
Okay. All right. So hang on. So Angelica's public work ranges from the history of aviation at the Cleveland Hopkins Airport to sculptural memorial benches in Huntsville, Alabama, and also to community neighborhood murals. She's an author, a lecturer, and curator, and has often been an artist in residence in various programs, including the Chile, Ohio Exchange. Awards include the Ohio Arts Council and the Arts Midwest Fellowships. She received her MFA from the University of Michigan and her BFA from Alfred University in New York. Mark Yasenchack has been mining his craft and sharing his knowledge with children and adults since the early 90s. He is curator and co-owner of Ramp Arts, a gallery dedicated to showcasing underrepresented and emerging artists. He is the Cleveland International Film Festival Business Operations Manager and is the director of the Art Craft Studio Show and Sale, a yearly event that brings great exposure to many area artists. Recent exhibitions include Self-Image at the Sandusky Cultural Arts Center, Forged in Fire at Valley Arts, and the Cannes Triennial. Mark graduated from Baldwin Wallace College with a BS in biology, along with a 2-year concentration in ceramics, glaze making, and darkroom techniques. And with that, I would like to let Angelica start talking.
All righty. So I'm going to be doing a little presentation first of a little PowerPoint. I've done a lot of different type of things, but I'm sort of focusing on work that is either collaborative or participatory of my public art pieces, and just ones that I've engaged people in different ways. So without further ado, so here we are, Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. I did this in 1995, and they wanted it to be participatory. Trudy Wiesenberger was the one who commissioned me. And initially they were thinking of everybody doing their own separate tile and it coming together. But as I was going through the hospital and getting a feel for the hospital, I felt that doing separate tiles was more like a patchwork quilt effort. And I felt that they were more of a weaving. Their care was more of a weaving, was more throughout the whole experience. They had extra large play areas so the siblings can come and play with their sick siblings, and the family can stay over, and all, and music therapy and art therapy. It's just, it was more about healing the child instead of curing the disease, more about healing the child and the whole family. So I felt that was more of a weaving. So then way I had people work on the border first, and I'll get a close up there. And then in the center part, I took photographs of different people around the hospital. A dad in a rocking chair with his twins and his twin babies in his arms, and the mom with their child with their stuffed animal, and et cetera. And then you can see sort of some red, sort of through the blue and green, you can see a little bit of red in there. Those are heart rhythms that are blood flow charts that were painted on underneath, and then the blue and green bands were painted on. And then I invited people to etch in EKG rhythms into the blue and green bands, but then also decorate the outer border. And they set me up in a sub basement of the hospital that was still under construction. And I had the table set up, and different staff and patients and their families came, and just all sorts of people came during the 6-week period that I was there to decorate their tile. So that was one way. And then this is shot down in the basement, and give you a sense of the scale. It was 9.5 feet tall by 22 feet long.
I was working at Rainbow during that time, and I came with my son.
Oh, cool.
And so we made a cup.
Oh, you made a cup. Oh, I didn't have cups.
our
Oh,
tile.
you decorated a cup.
Yeah,
You made a cup on the image. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Cool. So this is a law library, Cleveland State University Law Library. This piece is 8 foot high by 42 foot long when you go all the way from one end to the other, the letters. And it is in the lower level of the library, and and I have this on a timer, so I'm going to be talking for a different presentation, so I'm going to have to come back sometimes. So you first see this from the second floor, from 2 stories above. And so as you come, you'll start seeing the L, then you see the A and W, okay, law from a distance, this dark and light flipped. So that represents that a lot of decisions are sometimes reversed in law. And as you get closer, you can see that there's text on them. And so those are federal law statutes that are congressional law. And so that they were same on the dark as the light tiles, but they're broken up on the light tiles. So represents law and order versus law and disorder, and how presidential law, you pick different pieces of president laws that have rulings, presidential rulings to be able to argue your case. The Cleveland State is a depository of everything federal, all federal documents. So I decided to pick congressional law, but I didn't know anything about it. So I engaged the law library staff in picking what they felt were their top like 50 or so statutes that they felt were really basic to American law. And so that's how I engaged people there. And then since they have connections to these laws, then they can refer to them when they have tours coming through. So they really enjoyed having that opportunity to interact with that. This is at Harvey Rice Elementary School. And they was building a new building. They had opportunities for 5 murals that I got to do. This one I did with the elementary students, and 4 of the other ones I did with artists in the community. So this one, this rainbow flag, every student got to do a tile and etch through sgraffito, etch through to create an image that represented their aspirations for their future. And their school motto is what we believe we can achieve. So then they incorporated that into their flag as well. And then the other murals I did with artists in the community, and Harvey Rice was 99.9% African American. So I wanted to create murals that had role models for them that students could look up to, so that there are 4 murals and each one are in different areas of study. So there's social studies, there's school, sports and business, there's a STEM one and an arts one. And then I had different artists in the community that they had never worked with ceramics, but were either worked in with painting or drawing. And so I showed them techniques to work on tile and do drawing on tile. And so Anna Arnold was one of them, actually. She did some of these. So this is the sports and business one. But other artists came to my studio to decorate. I did the Obamas. And then I got to do a project in my neighborhood, in my Tremont's my community. And I started we had this ugly gray wall, brick wall, concrete wall in the middle, and people kept on asking me for years, Angelica, what could we do about this wall? And so I made Tremont Community Artists in Residence, a nonprofit under Tremont West, and was able to get grants and get funding to be able to do this with the community. And so it has over 1,000 tiles. We engaged almost 400 people to create tiles. And I had a core group of about a dozen illustrators that then worked on doing the historic images of the neighborhood. That was 5 years ago, I think it was. And that's still in our park. So most of the community got to decorate the colorful tiles. That's what the general community, and then the core group did the illustrations. Super close up. During in installation, you can see the grout's not in yet. And then this is a community coming in, neighborhood block clubs. The block clubs came to my studio, and then we also had sessions in neighborhood restaurants that people came to and decorated their tile. It was a lot of fun. It was fun to get the grown-ups to make some art too. And this is the illustrators meeting to decorate their tiles. And they had a lot of fun with the mosaic. And installation weekend. Seeing the mortar. First tiles go up. The first few tiles go up. Oops, I forgot to take that audio out of. I had to do 4, 5 presentations back to back online. So I made audio. I recorded the audio, but I took them out for you guys. So then this is probably the project that I'm most proud of is in Alabama. We gather here to honor, and I'll just let this video explain. Maybe, there we go. It's a non-toxic glaze.
It is a really remarkable day where all of these people get to leave their footprints on a piece of public art that is really a celebration of so much in our community. We'll celebrate the life and work of Dr. William Council and Dr. Sonny Herford and achievements and milestones in African American education in Huntsville. But at the same time, this piece will also embody our future hopes and aspirations for education throughout the community.
And right down there. So that whole concept of bringing people together underneath the tree, and think it's the South, it's hot. Of course, a tree will bring people together, and so from the get-go, the piece needed to have a tree. I was trying to come up with different ways to engage the community, to bring the community into the process somehow, and so this was just perfect. All righty. Yeah.
Imagine that.
Take them back to her studio in Ohio. Add the history, add written text, and that will describe Dr. Council's work and Dr. Herford's work. And then next fall, she will come back and install this piece in Twickenham Square in October.
I think I'm going to have you
history making to honor two great men, Dr. William Council and Dr. Sonny Herford III. A historical day. When you look at the contribution that both men has made to this nation, this state, and to this city.
Okay, Mayor's up next. All right, I think
footprints are very important because footprints show where history was. And when you put footprints down, it's kind of like writing a full page of the history. Each person had their footprint, which gave their footprint where they did the history of what Huntsville is today. Everything from Dr. Council to Dr. Sonny Herford all the way up to the present day, and Dr. Showers and myself. Each of us have our own little footprints in history.
lean on me. That's right. Lean on me.
As the former council court property was in the process of redevelopment, the Huntsville Housing Authority and their board of directors had said, we really want to really honor these sites that we've developed in the community. And they worked with the city of Huntsville and Bristol Development, the developer of Twickenham Square, to set aside public art funding for this project. So again, it was great vision and great leadership from HHA, the city of Huntsville and Bristol that brought us here today. And now the Arts Council has the great privilege of engaging the community in this process.
So this is the bear piece. The two men that were honored, Dr. William Hooper Council, he came out of slavery and at the age of 17, and there was no place for a Black man to be educated, but he found people to educate him, became a lawyer and a minister, and went on to found Alabama A&M University, and what ended up being Alabama A&M, okay, who's it? Alabama A&M University. And then Dr. Sonny Herford III, he was instrumental in desegregating the Alabama schools. Even though the federal government had ruled that segregated schools was illegal, 10 years later, Alabama schools were still segregated. So he was the one with 3 other families that sued the state of Alabama, and to be able to have his son enroll his 6-year-old son. And so the two that you saw that were side and look kind of similar, that was the 6-year-old son, now grown up, and that was Sonny Herford, who walked his son under the gauntlet of the National Guard, that or state troopers or whatever that George Wallace sent to prevent them from going into school. So he was still living, and so I was really proud to have been able to have made this piece while he was still alive. And he, in his own words, he said that for things that people used to spit at him for, he was like, so he was tickled pink that people were honored him with this piece. So. So then these are were put hand by hand, one by one. Each letter was stamped individually. There are 6 petals, and 3 of them refer to the life of Dr. Sonny Herford III, and the other 3 to Dr. William Hooper Council. So this is probably one of the piece that I most, tears at my heart or tugs at my heart the most for. Having been able to meet Dr. Sonny Herford, and that I was able to honor him while he was still there. He lived on for maybe a couple more years after this, but he's passed now. And so there, because of that video, I was able to figure out which ones were his footprints and his son's footprints. So they're labeled. So they're the only ones that are labeled. And then finishing up with the project I did for Art House, and then I realized that I never went back to get finished shots. So I need to go back and get finished shots, especially they're supposed to cap them. But this is at Constellation School at Stockyard, and so I worked with the students to look at different stockyard animals, pigs and cows and sheep, and they decorated them with glazes on the tiles, and so there they are. And as I said, I need to go back and get more pictures because those are the only 2 that I have. But now I can switch to my other camera, or Lila, you can get me on my other camera, and I'll try to then mute myself here. Okay, so here's my messy studio. This is the front room. Where I usually do my hand building or working or tiles. This is my big long table that when I do a big long mural, it's 24 feet long. I can do that. These are the dinnerware that I'm doing now. When I do some dinnerware, when I get a chance to do so, that's all set up over here. My slab roller buried under a lot of other things. So this is the front room. This is behind my house. I was very lucky to have gotten this huge studio. It's 3 rooms, 24 by 84 feet altogether. This is the middle room. I have finished work in here, and I also prep here. You can see my cutting paper cutter. I prep for my classes that I teach in here. And so I have some finished work and store a lot of materials in here, and books and all sorts of things. And room number 3 is, that's where my sink is. So here I have a lot of my hardware and my grout and glazing materials are here. And so I'm working on a commission from my neighbor over here, doing a mosaic there. And I'm going to be doing some paper mache animals for art house for Constellation Schools. And so this is my little setup over here with getting ready to do that. And then beyond the 3 rooms, I have a garage attached to it, and that's where I have my kilns. So the last room is my things, and then glaze material. So that's where I mix my glazes. I can keep all my chemicals separate. So that's that. So there you have it. I'll give you a tour. We'll walk back, and then I can hand it over to Mark.
All set? Can everyone hear me? I
Yes.
think I unmuted.
Yeah.
So this is my studio. Since Angelica wasn't embarrassed to show her studio, I won't be embarrassed to show mine. In the same building that Angelica started out in, she opened the cooperative studio here in Artcraft in 1987, and I moved in around 1997 into her space when she was moving out to the place where she is now. And over maybe, well, it's been 35 years that artists have had studios here, and it's been over, I think my last count was about 80 artists have been in the studio space since 1987. We didn't have the Artcraft show last year, but we've had that annually for the whole time. And right now there's 9 artists up here. And if you've heard the news, the Artcraft building is eventually going to be developed. So it's kind of the end of an era here. But the developers, Global X, have been consistently and sincerely and very lovingly supportive of the arts, and they're going to move us into a building down the street. That's the plan now. And I'm kind of excited about the change, even though I'm kind of sad to leave Artcraft. And it's also a chore to leave the studio that you've been in for over 20 years. So it's not going to be an easy move, but it'll give me a chance to downsize a little bit and start and fresh in a new space. And it will probably have a similar cooperative space so that the spaces can be smaller than some of the individual spaces over in the building. So emerging artists, student artists, and younger artists can afford to have a studio space and not work out of their basement or work out of their bedroom. I think it's a first step in supporting local artists is making sure they have affordable studio space. And with Artcraft closing, that changes the whole equation, and there's less and less space, especially in downtown areas. So the artists will move to a new space, and I'm intrigued to see what the next 10 years, how artists are living and working in the city of Cleveland. So I wanted to piggyback off of what Angelica said. I also know Lila through her space that she used to rent, the school building. That's my original studio, and then I moved into there about 1995, and then I moved into the Artcraft around 1997, and I've been teaching with Art House for about 10 years, and Angelica mentioned a few schools that she's done murals at, but I think there's more schools that she didn't mention that she's done murals at. William Cullen Bryant's and Newton D. Baker she has 2 really nice series of historical murals there, 2 smaller pieces that are in the hallway there. But once the schools open again, if you have a chance, there's really nice artwork in pretty much all the schools, but Angelica's work in those 2 schools is particularly inspiring. And it's similar to the pieces you saw here. So they're really, they're special little pieces. And, in some of these old schools, they did a big capital push to rebuild schools and remodel schools, and a lot of that artwork that just got lost. So I'm going to share my screen now, and So I'll show you, I was going to show you a few pictures of my work, but I'm going to just jump into I was going to talk about a lot of the different works that I've done, but I miss teaching so much. And then going through the images to put together for today, I found one that I did with Artcraft or with Art House. I think it was 1997 or 2018 or 2017. It was at Denison School of right across the street. It was with Mr. O, and I'll go through these I'll go through these really quick. These are just some little sculptural things I've been making recently. Porcelain pieces, and then the mosaic piece. This is a collaborative piece with Kevin Snipes. He was up here for a little bit in the Artcraft building, and these were some shards he left me for a piece that we worked on together. You can go to my website just to see those. I'm going to jump into the juicy stuff. I do skulls too. And so this was work that I did at Lutheran Memorial School. This was one of the first places I taught at with Art House. And we did a canvas murals, banners that went into the hallway. And we studied a little bit about Aboriginal art. When I teach classes, if I represent any artists, it's usually marginalized artists, Black and brown artists and queer artists. And I always make sure to include pictures of those artists and working. With the Aboriginal artists, it's pretty amazing that even now you can Google Aboriginal artists and they'll show their work, they'll show pictures of them, but they won't be named. So it's still ongoing. You know, that's a subtext of a lot of what I bring to the classroom, I think, is representing to classrooms, elementary classrooms to high school classrooms, this kind of work. And the kids love the Aboriginal work. It's a big step for them just to dot lines rather than paint lines with a brush. But once they make that step, and sometimes they paint a lot of lines and we dot over them, they love doing this. And it's a collaborative project. And it's a project that we can work on over and over again. So one class can work on a mural that the previous class had just worked on. Once it's dry, they can put more dots on. And you really build up a depth with this and a really energetic look. I'm sorry that these aren't the best pictures. This was also the last time I worked on canvas. Canvas now, the fire marshal has kind of, they've shied away from putting canvas in schools, and I've been using a vinyl material. If anyone wants to know the material that I did this workshop with, or the new vinyl material that I'm substituting for canvas, or the other aluminum coated plastics, I can give you the sources for those pieces, those materials. And this was at Lutheran Memorial School, both their eastern campus, or their main campus and their west campus. So this is the project that we started with Denison. It was, I think, fourth graders. And this was the original. So they had, the first class was, I gave them a slide presentation of public artwork, murals. And then I gave them these big architectural diagrams of buildings to create their own images on. And not so much for ideas that we're going to use, but to get them working in teams. And it's always hard to get them working in teams. And so if you can kind of see, like, each kid took a section of the building and just colored it in their way. And there was very little teamwork here in this one, although there's a big smiley face. So that's a start. But I've done this with adult workshops too. And the adult workshops look sometimes less cohesive than these do. And there's another picture. So this is, they came over to Art House from Denver, which is right across the street. And these were house shapes that were painted on aluminum or plastic coated aluminum. And it's a really strong material. It works well outside. You can cut it into shapes. It's pretty easy to work with. Oh, this is another of the original drawings too. So the teamwork cohesion at the beginning of this workshop was kind of low, kind of high for fourth graders, but kind of low in general. And then once we got the tools out and started drawing in some of their ideas, it really took off. And the only time that I stepped in or any of the other adult teachers stepped in was to draw their images from their sketches onto the main pieces. If one thing when the kids do it, they tend to draw it way too small and they don't think big. They don't make the picture from the sketchbook bigger to the proportion of the piece that they're working on. So that's the only thing I did here. And also I took it away from them when they were they hit like a finished spot. They would have kept on painting and painting and painting these. It was a fun group to work with. They had a lot of really excited energy. And this is the energy that I miss. I'm teaching now virtually, and I just had a class today where out of 30 students in the class, only 15 showed up, and they didn't have, half of them didn't have the materials for the workshop, even though there was a distribution point for the materials. The virtual system I think it's failing a lot of students, even though it's giving them the minimum of what they need. But overall, I think they're as hungry as teachers are to get back to the classroom. And in the back there's a piece by Kristen Cliffel, Blossom, that was at Art House. So you can kind of see the house shapes. These were cut. Oh, this is one of the original drawings. So if you watch, this bird shows up later, although it looks like a bird, but it's really a fish. There's a crab. So this is one of the side panels of the house shape. Some detail shots. We did a few of them were fish, a few of them were mammals and birds. So the school, the Denison School, is a really odd kind of hexagonal. It's like, if you looked at it from above, it's like a big 3-leaf clover, and there's really no straight hallways in there. And all these weird shaped classrooms, there's not a single rectangular room in the building, and they're all kind of hexagons or circular rooms. They enclose a courtyard where these pieces were then assembled and put into the courtyard. It's a really beautiful space in the center of the building. So these are the front and backs of the houses. I think one of those is that birdfish that from the previous sketch. I hadn't seen these pieces in a while, so it was nice to see them. And oh, there's the bird. This is the it ended up looking a little different than the original sketch. I don't know why there's a fish there and a bald eagle there, but they kind of took it on their own and did stuff with it. So right before we actually did the house shapes, and here in the background behind or to the right of the girl in pink, you can kind of see two in process sides of the houses. We also did small houses on foam core that were sliced a little bit and hinged and shaped to form house-like shapes. They were what we started on. I was using recycled or reused poster board from the film festival, and I had a lot of foam core, and it became a great painting surface to work on. And I think one or two of those are still at Art House. So this then, it was cut into shapes and then scored along the edges, and then this was folded up to make the house. And they were working in teams really great by the end. They were a really fun group to work with. In fact, it was hard to see the workshop end. I think they were as disappointed too. And near the end, as we were slowly winding down, we pulled out some canvas for the kids to do some banners to the school. So a lot gets painted out when they paint. I'm using a latex paint, a house paint, and it's very opaque. And so sometimes the original drawing was changed significantly by the end. So here's one of the murals, and that kind of gives you an idea of the size of the banners that we did. And I know that those are up in the school, although I'm not sure where. I don't have a picture of them installed. And we did they saw some of the Aboriginal artwork from Australia, artwork by the Australian artists too. And so they kind of use sponge brushes on a layer of the painting as well. This was, Lila, I think this was your first year there. So whatever year that was, this happened. Okay, so this is the courtyard and some of the pieces in the courtyard. The roof looks like it's white, but that's just a little bit overexposure from being outside. They're painted light sky blue, like the you can kind of see on the side pieces, and a little bit in the, this is getting bleached out a little bit on my monitor, but they were painted as well. And the students helped me a little putting them together. They're hinged on the corners and then screwed in on the top, and some of the kids were able to, they love drilling the holes. That was pretty easy, but then kids had to go inside the house to hold the nut in place when we screwed it in. So that was fun. And so that's about, I think they're 4 feet tall. So that gives you an idea of what it looks like there in place in the courtyard of Denison Elementary. And I think they moved them inside for the winter, but I told them that, you know, with the house paint, these are very durable pieces and can survive inside or out. The material itself, the aluminum coated or the plastic coated aluminum, is a real durable. Weather, freezing and snow and wet weather doesn't affect it. Oh, that's a good picture of them. And there was a third one that it's kind of hard to get, and that I couldn't get far enough from them to get all 3 at the same time. Yeah, there's the third one. Maybe, let's see. Yeah, I think that's the third one. There were 2 with fish and 1 with mammals. Oh, there's that bird that ended up being a fish. It's right there. I knew it was in one of them. And so all of the kids had a drawing that they did at the beginning end up in the final piece. Some teams worked a lot quicker and were able to fill the piece with more fish or more animals. And some teams worked a little slower and maybe have fewer animals, but bigger creatures on theirs. I love this house too. This was like in the invisible house. The student, I remember having a story where you could see it was like a greenhouse, but a house that people lived in that had glass walls, and that's why you could see the shapes, the structure of it. Oh, that's the end of that. So, you know, this is the work that I really miss. And COVID is, you know, made it hard to do this. Although with Cleveland schools opening, I'm hoping to go back in person soon. I've developed some virtual workshops that are collaborative and students work together on, but they don't quite make up for the in-person experience and the intimacy of it. I guess I didn't realize just how intimate in-person teaching is compared to virtual. I never pictured virtual. When I went to college, we didn't have classes online, so I wasn't even prepared for it in that level. When Lila said that, it certainly dates me when she said I took darkroom, a concentration in darkroom work in college, because, you know, most colleges don't even have darkrooms anymore. So everything is digital, and I think college students had a little, you know, a taste of what virtual learning is like, and I didn't. So it was definitely a generational experience, and I've learned how to use the technology available pretty well. So that's my presentation. I like that one house.
Okay, so I think there's some questions in the chat. that people had. Emily, have you been keeping an eye on that?
Yes. So most of it is just positive reinforcement, not questions. But one person asked, Barbara asked, Angelica, are they stepping into the glaze? Is that how they're?
Yes, in that project, yes, they are stepping into a bucket of glaze, a pail of glaze, and they're leaning on my shoulder, and I'm picking up their foot and sticking it on the tile. So, Mako Wonder Glazes, non-toxic.
Nice. The rest are just saying how awesome you guys are. The rest of the comments. How beautiful.
I did. There's one from Patty Q. She wanted to know if we'd have the Artcraft building in the new location, and the Global X has been really supportive, and they'd love to have something like that at the new location.
Oh, I see it.
Okay. That's good.
Oh, good.
So Angelica, what made you land on the idea of getting people's footprints for that project?
With that project, well, that site had been, it kind of like grew a little bit, but that site, the site where that had been built had been previously had been housing for public housing for African Americans. It was built in 1952, and so back then everything was segregated, so that any public housing prior to that would have been whites only. So this was, if not the first, one of the first public housing for African Americans. So that site, the Housing Authority was selling off because they're right next to like a Cleveland Clinic kind of style hospital. It's huge and expanding, and it was like our old downtown where there was no amenities. You know, before anything was happened, there was no amenities. So but part of the condition of sale was that the developer had to pay for the public art, because the Housing Authority would not be able to, they did not have the authority to get public art. So anyway, there, at first they wanted to have the piece, they had a spot on the wall of one of the buildings, but people really wanted to have a site. They saw my piece at Wade Oval, and they just wanted to have a site. So I started thinking of site. I started thinking of having a tree. But for a while we maybe couldn't do that. And so when I started, and I came up with the tree and the flower idea for the dimensional piece, but then we weren't sure we were able to get permits. So then when I started moving it back up to the wall and thinking about a flower, and then also trying to think of a way to engage people, because they wanted me to engage people. I thought, well, footprints kind of look like chrysanthemum flower petals to me. And then, and so then I started thinking more about feet, and feet represents one's personhoods, one's individualness, and one's independence. And so I thought that was a good symbol, as opposed to hands, which represents what we make. Our footprints represents our person, our individual, our independence, and our be able to step forward. And so I thought that was a good symbol for especially honoring someone who had come out of slavery. And then also for allowing people to leave a piece of themselves on a site that was no longer theirs, that had a lot of history. And so then I thought that was that's how that grew. And so then I incorporated that into the three-dimensional flower form.
Okay. Do other people have questions? 2 new messages.
I don't have questions, but this was wonderful to watch. And unfortunately, I have to leave because I have a school meeting at 7 o'clock. So, so I'm going to say goodbye, but I'm not leaving because they don't want to be on a further conversation. So, but thank you so much. It was so cool to see these projects and collaborate, especially just the whole collaborative nature of it, and with kids, and also seeing, you know, where your work was going too. So both of you. Those little figures are so cool. And Angelica, you've always got something going on. So bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for visiting.
So
Angelica, that was from 2015, right?
The Alabama one?
Yeah.
Yes, uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the vibe is there now. You know, I picture Alabama to have a lot of racist Confederate monuments there, and it'd be nice to know that your monument replaced another monument or added to the story somehow.
It definitely added to the story because especially Huntsville, there the NASA is there, and so everything is all the 5 Germans that they got and spaceships and rockets and so that's why the housing authority thought it was important that they at least like kind of start setting some, making it possible to honor the contributions that African American people in Huntsville, which was very significant. So.
right.
So some people were working on it. When I went down, when they brought me down, I initially, because they're trying to get funding, they had this party at someone's house, and it was a gay man and a liberal, and so it was in his house, and so this were all these society people that trying to get money. But so we were in the corner, and he was saying, and with his other friends, says, "This is how we spend the time. We can't. We have to watch what we talk about to the rest of the people in the room here." And so so that was back then. So I can just imagine these past 4 years how. What a time he must have been having if 6 years ago that during Obama's presidency it was still scary. It must have been really scary for him.
So I have a question for both of you. You talked and shared what you do with communities, whether they're adults and children. But how does you also have this whole other practice that is more, if you will, studio practice where you create your sets of dinnerware, or there's sculptures that you create. And there are those in those you express different ideas. So how does that work relate to the public art commissions as well as the work that you do in the schools or with other people in different workshops?
Well, for me, the work that I do, and for the I find it's fairly separate, and but they energize each other, so that like the dinnerware that I showed you with the all that splashy color and everything, and I'm using commercial plates to decorate because I do so many things. The little time that I can scrape out to do that work, I want to be decorating and I want to be working with color. I don't necessarily want to be making the forms. So so that but one thing, it's so I've been enjoying this series because it is so loose. I have this one area I didn't show where I have a little shield because I just like do the Jackson Pollock and and splash everything, and it's very freeing. So that's very different than all these planned things that have to be very kind of measured and coordinated and planned. So I see them sort of somewhat as a foil to each other. One is when I can be totally free, and in the dinner where I can be free in the splashing and the doing the sculptural work, I'm kind of free and not really thinking about it has to function a certain way or it has to sell or anything like that. I'm so different. I have different. They fulfill different pockets of artistic energy, I think, for me. So I don't know. How about you, Mark?
Yeah, both of them satisfy different urges, the creative urges that I have. I couldn't do just studio art, and I couldn't just be a teacher. Each one would kind of starve without the other one. They're like symbiotic, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find it.
And
kind of
sometimes there's
symbiotic,
like,
too.
yeah, sometimes there's techniques I learn in the studio that I can't wait to see what kids do with, because I figured I've learned a lot of what I take credit for innovating through from kids. So they're the real innovators. The whole, I used to do dot paintings. I still do with the brushes, but watching them do it is fun. And I learn a lot from the students.
So how is it different the way they sponge paint than the way you sponge paint? I mean, like, you know, what technique did you get from them?
They're not as worried about dripping paint all around, so I've stopped being worried about dripping paint all around. Their energy level is a lot higher. So, and the circles don't have to be perfect, you know. So I guess I definitely learned a looseness from them.
And
Could I jump in, Lila?
yeah, please.
I just wanted to say thank you. Oh,
Wait,
can you hear me?
I was just gonna answer some of the questions I saw in the chat that were that I saw someone asked about where I saw my my work. I saw someone. Oh, where did someone? I didn't wear. In my studio. So you can come to my studio. You can email me or angelicapozo.com. You can email me through my website, or I can put my email in the chat as well. So anyway, I wanted to answer that, and then there was another question about the writing the book, how the process of writing a book related to other modes of work. Writing the book was hard. It was very but I mean, took a lot of coordination. That book, the first book, the tile making book, took 14 months of planning it and planning the chapters and then creating the work and then getting it photographed. And then the publisher really wanted me to kind of like give them bits and bits of the book all the way through the year, but I felt like I really couldn't write it until I did the work for it. So I really wrote it in the last 2 months. I wrote the book in the last 2 months, but it took 14 months to get the work, get the work done. So and then once I had to really sit down, it wasn't fun. Let's put it that way. I mean, I enjoyed the outcome, but it wasn't a fun. It's not like, oh, let me just go and write a book. I much rather work with children or decorate in my work. But I'm glad that it's behind me. I mean, it was a good experience to go through, but I not that great. Public art projects that don't have community aspects but are more direct commissions. Are you not interested in? Oh, I still do those types of commissions when they come through. So yeah, I still do that. But a lot of times I still try to engage people or, in some way, whether it's just like in the library, I got information, I use their intellectual aspects to, engagement to work in there. So I still do those. I've just been lucky that I've been contacted for projects and have not really had to go out and apply as much lately. And then what I tend to be is that I get invited to do a lot of community things, but there is I might be doing a project for Unity Circle Incorporated to honor Jesse Owens. They want to do a Jesse Owens monument there, so they're raising funds for that. So that'd be a big public piece that would not be like the other ones don't. So anyway, Kevin, you had questions. Or I know if there's any other questions that I missed.
Oh, no. Thank you, Angelica. I just wanted to say thank you very much to both of you. Wonderful presentations. Really, thanks for showing us your studio.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I thought that's in Tremont.
Yeah, that's in Tremont.
Yeah, it was
put
fabulous.
My cell phone in the chat. If anybody wants to come and And my email if you wanted to come and buy work.
And I wanted to empathize with Mark on his activism on affordable studio space for emerging artists. And I was kind of familiar with what you're going through, or your anticipation of how it's going to play out for people over the next 5 years or so for affordable space, where I assume it's been relatively affordable for you for the last 20 years, I guess.
Oh, yeah. And Global X hasn't raised the rent. They've been really supportive in that way. And it's nice to know that a developer's at least thinking about the artists in the community.
Yeah.
Without having to. They're not applying for historical credits right now. So there's, not any requirement for them to do that. They're doing that on their own. And they're in the old Daffy Dam building. So they're repopulating these buildings with
and it is Dan himself, right? Isn't it Daffy Dan himself? Isn't he involved with this?
Oh no, it's Global X.
Oh,
I don't think so. Not anymore. Yeah,
not anymore.
They did a great job in restoring that building. Yeah, not anymore.
Huh.
The next building they're
back
working on is
yeah, his old T-shirt business. He was over in on the west side somewhere, wasn't he? Making T-shirts.
Yeah. When Angelica moved in, she had a space that was maybe the size of half of one of those rooms. And the Artcraft building, half of it was pigeons were, or was that the building down? That was Tower Press that the pigeons were living in, right? Or was it you guys started at Tower
Press? We started in Tower Press.
And that was with
the heat was not with Andrea Serafino and Deirdre Daw and Dubanowicz. Paula Dubanowicz. That place, the heat was not was really cold. And I remember having to. We had a little toaster. We had to turn the toaster on. Would warm my hands.
That was your space heater. Was a toaster.
That was our space heater.
Well, you guys look really cozy now.
Yeah,
much improved. Things are much improved.
Well, I gotta go. I've got another Zoom meeting to go to, if you could believe that. Thank you so very much. It's been wonderful to see you all. And I look forward to my next time in Cleveland so I can visit you both. Take care.
All right,
Love you.
Sounds good. Get the information. You can just email me or phone me.
I will. Thank you so much.
If you want to have a studio visit.
Yeah, I'd love to. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Kevin.
Bye-bye, Mark. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm adding my phone number and email address to the
chat also.
Good.
Thank you, Mark.
Did we answer all the questions?
I don't know. Do other people have questions? We have a very quiet group here.
Just to do a shameless plug, the Ramparts Gallery at 78th Street Studios will be featuring our artists for the month of March. Not that we don't always celebrate our women artists. And then we'll have our first sponsored student mentor, Jamal Carter. He'll be doing a series of photos called Southern Gold. And it's a story of his roots in Alabama and then living here in Cleveland. So those pictures will be up in March. And those will be up by the second weekend in March, and then the third Friday is the 19th. So if you wanted to make an appointment or come some other time, and if you're not comfortable being in the small crowd that forms with the third Friday, we can accommodate other times. And even the third Friday crowd has been very manageable. We don't let any more than 10 people in the gallery at a time, and that gives people enough space to be socially distant.
Good. Yeah, that's good. So Mark, can you talk a little bit more about how you approach your own work? Because you work with some of your pieces are the way you build them up are with smaller pieces. And it has a lot to do with texture, that you get inspiration from other places.
So yeah, I just did this yesterday. This was one of my boxes, but it was clay that I had rolled out, and you know, I'm using little pieces of clay that are basically tiles that are textured to make kind of mosaics on here, build up the pattern, and the patterns from stamps that I've used for the last 20 years. I don't know how they've made it through this time, but this tool right here I've had since I was in college, and I don't even remember making it anymore. But there were tools that I made, and this one I had to reinforce with another piece of clay, but I've been using it, and then sometimes, like, there's this new leaf pattern that I've been working with. It takes a while to integrate the new ones with the old ones and to feel like they're part of it. The other thing that I'm working on is this is a form that's going to be under a mosaic, and this is for an urn that I'm making for someone. But the texture is going to be on the tile that gets put on this. So that's what I've been working on lately. I haven't been doing much of my own work other than the small skulls and figurines and the bird figurines that I did. I've been working out of my comfort zone, not so much challenging that comfort zone. So.
Okay. Well, thanks. Is there anything else you guys want to add, or are there any other questions? Angelica or Mark, any other thoughts?
Well, Lila, thank you for hosting this. It's been fun to talk about and to discuss work with another artist, especially Angelica.
Yeah, this has been fun. Yeah, thank you. It's
I
fun to
wanted
present to you, Mark.
Hey, you know, the background behind Angelica, I just watched a movie on Netflix called Made You Look, about the nobler art fraud in New York in the 90s. There's a better version of it made by a woman director called Driven to Abstraction that's not on Netflix. You have to pay. That's a on streaming on demand thing. But Mark Rothko is one of the faked art, the counterfeited artists, and that looks like a Mark Rothko behind you. You have to watch it.
Yep,
because
I have Mark Rothko of counterfeits in my studio.
the one on Netflix is kind of funny, but it plays the people that were really guilty in all of this, were really got off on the one on Netflix. But there's a joke that they have one of the fake Mark Rothkos in the courtroom, and they're arguing whether it's upside down or not. So, you have to watch it. That's the best thing about the one on Netflix. It's maybe a little bit more thorough too, but the better one is the other one, called Driven to Abstraction.
Cool.
So is that a Mark Rothko in the back, or is that just an unpainted wall, or a wall that you had
That's
painted?
just a half painted wall. I had the pink was from when I took a photograph for my book, that I one of the photographs for the book, so I painted the wall pink for that to make it look like an interior to go with the colors there, and then I painted it black for when I was taking photographs of studio work. But I did not have to cover all of the pink when I did it. So I have a little bit of history there. I have a big pink with a big black square in the middle of a big pink.
I like it.
I just wanted to pop in and thank Lila and Art House for hosting this, and please send me more invites, because I don't get out anymore and see studio visits or anything. So it's so good to see Angelica and Mark and do that. So thank you so much. Make sure, Lila, you send us some more so that we can enjoy these.
Will do. And Kathy, it's so good to see you. Thank you for joining. Yeah, really awesome.
Yeah, good to see you, Kathy. Thanks for stopping over.
Yeah, it's good to see you, and I loved seeing your studios. And I was the one who asked you where I could buy your plates. I still have,
Oh.
I have 3 of your leaves in my bedroom on my wall. So I think I need to come buy some plates or
You'll
something.
have to come next time you're up in Cleveland. You'll have to stop over.
I will. That sounds great.
I have not really been, the only little venture for retail was to put it in Ramp Arts for a little bit over the holidays, but otherwise they've been just things that I make for like studio holiday sales or studio sales, and I'm not really trying to merchandise them that big, just because I don't get that much time to make them. So the time I get is good enough for. I love being involved with the art craft, so that hopefully I can be involved with still the art craft part 2.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, that would be great.
And then sometimes I get involved with the Tremont Community Arts and Cultural Festival, and I've been selling them there, but otherwise it's just out of the studio, keeping it low key.
You know, Kathy, if you're in Cleveland on a third Friday, 78th Street Studios starts about midday. It starts about 1 o'clock. Most of the galleries are open, and there it's just literally 1 or 2 people in the gallery at a time. So it's pretty safe.
Awesome. Thank you.
Before the crowd gets there.
That's good to know.
Good to know.
Good to know. Yeah. And I think there've been some more complimentary comments in the chat. And also that plates are very affordable gifts. I don't know, is there anything else, Emily? That's come in.
And just riding off of that affordable, that's another reason why I tried not to, I'm not really trying to put the work out there, just to keep it basically studio wholesale kind of pricing, and because otherwise then I have to move my pricing up. And so they're selling well at that price. So they're affordable, and so I'm happy with that. Yeah.
And Mark, you have an Etsy store, right? That you work out of?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Look for my name, but one word, no space between it. Okay. I have a few birds up there now and some skulls.
Okay. Well, I think that just about wraps it up. This has been a really wonderful evening, and it's been really great to see everybody. Thanks everybody for joining, and we hope to see you soon.
Nice to see you both.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye, Mark.
See ya.